Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we get to explore one of my favorite pet openings, a very aggressive opening. It's the King's Gambit. Many of you will know the Queen's Gambit, popular Netflix series. Sorry, a little bit tired. Popular Netflix series, popular opening. But the King's Gambit is super aggressive, super fun, and we get to take a look at it. Now, you might be asking, why is it played? Why is it not played? Actually, depending. You may have seen it, you may have not seen it. Yanni Pomnish has actually played it a bit, but it's not seen at top level because it can be a bit dubious. Because on move 2, black is actually slightly better according to most modern engines, with an advantage of about 0. 0.4. So it's minus 0.4. And considering white starts the game about plus zero point 0.02, you have kind of given it away advantage. But it's e4, e5, and now here, most of us would play knight to f3, or d4, or knight to c6, or bishop out as like a few variations. Most games would go with the knight. You can play the bishop's opening, you can play Vienna, you can play center game. But there is another move, and that is f4, immediately challenging the center pawn. Now we're not going to only look. Yes, we're going to only look at the King's Gambit accepted today. The King's Gambit declined is a bit dubious for black, just in my opinion. The Queen's Gambit, just for example, the Queen's Gambit with d4, d5, and c4, that you can accept with. You can choose whether to accept or to decline with one of the various moves. When you face the King's Gambit, you should, if you're playing black, 100% of the time accept this. So, e takes f4. Now, there are a couple of moves here for white to play. We're going to look at the main line, which is knight to f3. Reason being is you are covering this check. Queen h4 check, because you've given up the f-pawn, you've weakened your king significantly, so you have to cover this. Now, the best move, and the book move, according to most modern people, is the move g5. You have to go for this. Now there will be h4, g4, knight e5, and then knight to f6 to defend this. And then now there's a couple of moves for white. You can play d4 right away, which is the whole point of the gambit, to get nice central control because the pawn is taken away. Or you can continue to develop with the bishop coming out to one of these squares. Or you can elect to take this pawn. It is, to a degree, up to you. I would say play d4. Reason being, you can still take this pawn if you want, unless they kick out your knight. But now you've got your bishop open, and you can castle. If you're worried about king safety and stuff like that, get your bishop out and then quickly play short castles. Short castles is always very dangerous. You may want to develop as quickly as you can and go long. So let's have a look. We've got bishop to c4. Now d5 must be played in this position from black. So please expect this. Please, if you're playing black, know against bishop to c4 you must play this. Basically, it's the only move to not be worse. You have to play d5. Now e takes d5 is the best move. And now black has got a few options on how to develop. You've got bishop to d6. You've got bishop to g7. You've got knight takes d5, although that's probably not very popular. And you've got knight to e4, jumping into the center. The problem is white's king is very exposed. And so as black, you want to quickly develop and try and take advantage of that. Black is always slightly better here. But the complications come if they don't play perfectly. So let's go all the way back, because I have played this, right? Now, I haven't checked my stats, but I never faced this at, beginner and intermediate level when I used to play this. Maybe if I played this now, I would get it. But a lot of the time, people don't know the correct way to play. So what are the other moves? Well, you could get knight to f6, but then you play d4 and you take back. That's the whole idea. You're grabbing that central space. So g5 is the only other way. The only way maybe is you could play d6. d6, d4, and now g5. g5 is so important for black because you've got to try and hang on to this because you're impeding the development of the dark squared bishop. You're always threatening various attacks on white So it's of paramount importance. If you don't, and you play, for example, knight to f6, well, white takes this back, and he's almost +1. Knight f6, knight c3. Bishop d7, for example, and now you've got, bishop c4 and whatnot. This hangs because there's a center fork trick, but you could, for example, play bishop out here, which is maybe not as accurate because of short castles, but you've got short castles yourself. Your rook is on an open f file, which is why it's also nice to have the bishop here, because it helps target. But you've just got a pleasant position, which is why it's a very good tool. It really, really is, if played properly. But as said, g5, you see this, you're in a game, and it's going to be very tactical. Like, just look at this line, h4, push, takes, just developing the whole time. Now, of course, you don't necessarily have to go into all of this with g5, because you don't have to play knight to f3. You can actually play this how they used to do, and you can play the move bishop to c4. You can play the move bishop to c4, because after queen h4, you just play king f1, and this is known as the bishop's gambit, variation of the king's gambit, because you've given up your right to castle, but black's not developed. The queen is here. You're gonna get this knight out. You can always, play king f2 and castle by hand, and you've got eyes on everything. You've got a piece developed. You're going to use your development to kick out the queen to gain more. So, for example, d6, knight to f3, queen h5, and now d4. Once again, you've got this critical move d4. Once again, the best move is g5. But how often will you face this? If you do, you're in a game. But knight to c3, and now you're in a 50-50. There's a game here that was won by black between Amin Basim and Nigel Short. But there's also another game here by some other title players in 1992. All of this is insane, but I guarantee you this idea with bishop to c4, this has been played by Sergei Karyakin, Vasily Ivanchuk, Garry Kasparov, top players. I mean, there's games here from 2009, from 2015, 1993. You can go and have a look at all these games. Now, of course, black doesn't have to fall for this and go and give you the check. The best move, or the move that's most played here in the Masters database, is knight to f3. Just counterattacking this. But white again, knight to c3. And now you have to play c6 because you have to try and build in the center. So bishop b3 anticipates this. Now d5, e takes d5. Probably c takes d5, and then d4. You've got eyes on this. Bishop d6 defends. But now, knight ge2, you put more pressure. And in various points, black either has to try very hard to hang on to this, or they have to give it back to you. That's just how it works. So short castles here, and then bishop takes f4. Bishop takes f4. Knight takes f4. A rook e8 check. And now knight fe2, and we're pretty much okay. Bishop to g4, and short castles, and now we're heading to a draw. There is this fork, which you can kind of get out of it, because there's 93, and you've got queen d3. Because even though they grab this, you're actually fine. You're actually fine with rook takes f1. Despite the fact you're down a clean rook, black's pieces are all on the back rank. Now, a reminder, all of the notation will be in the, if you're getting overwhelmed, all the notation will be in the video description. So go have and check that out. But it's just e4, e5, f4 is crazy. We're only looking at e takes f4 today. We've looked at knight f3, we've looked at bishop to c4. There is the idea to play the immediate d4. That might be tempting. Not recommended. Queen h4 check is diabolical, because now you have to play king e2. And d5 is crushing, because your king has played a bomb cloud, effectively. And now the center's being cracked open. Your queen is very weak, and this borderline threatens to win a queen. So knight f3 almost loses. you're so lucky that this doesn't lose, because this is not pinned. But it could, because now it's pinned, and now you have to take or you have to push. And black wins games from here. So please, d4, it looks tempting because you're like, oh, the idea is to take this back. Sometimes it is, 100%. If they let you take this, you take it. But d4 should be played when your king is safe or you know what you're doing. I do recommend you play practice games. You can play it against bots, or you can play some rapid games to get used to this. Go look at some Grandmaster games. There's a game here with d4, Ne5 versus Ding from 2019. Black wins. You go through the Masters database. It takes you got to go really low down for white to win this. Black is almost better. So please be careful. E takes f4. You can play knight f3 and you can play bishop to c4. Those are my two recommendations. You might get away with queen f3. It's not recommended, but you might get away with it a bit more because check, and now you've got this. But even then, do you really? Because you can't... Oh, you can take back. And then the queen's got to go back. Like here. And then you develop, and you'll be just about okay. You're down a pawn, but you kind of get away with it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the King's Gambit. It is a very fun opening. I promise you, ladies and gentlemen. You can get some beautiful positions like I've shown you. You can get some absolutely beautiful positions if they do not know what they're doing after this. Like knight f3, they will go, for example, here and d4, and you're just doing well. If they don't play g5, everything is better for you. If they play g5, you've got to know your stuff. The King's Gambit, you do not go in without knowing your stuff. And that's all I have to explain for the King's Gambit, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you'll play this in the comments down below. And which line would you play? Would you play knight f3? Would you play bishop to c4, the bishop's gambit?